Hey,
Not sure
man.
what happened there, but
I'm
we're
not
live.
either. But we are live. Crazy. I think the countdown, something happened, man. It says we're live. I don't know what's going on, but we'll see. That's crazy. The damn countdown stopped on us. Hey, we're excited to be talking Texas Longhorn football again, man. It's Sunday. We're going to get to a point where it is going to be NFL on Sunday shortly. So I don't know how many Sunday shows we'll do moving forward. But we're trying some new things out today, man. I moved my mic. Hopefully, it doesn't act crazy during the show. But I know we want to talk about two deep or really talk about the scrimmage and kind of go through what we believe is the two deep moving forward. Now that the scrimmages kind of get into the two deep and three deep and allowing the coaching staff to kind of figure out who their 22 on both sides of the ball are.
Yeah, excited about that. Kind of looked at the scrimmage yesterday, talked about that on Friday night about snap count. Once Quinn Ewers was named the starting quarterback at the University of Texas, what does the snap count look like? And from reports from yesterday, it seems like they're really trying to figure out what that 22 on offense looks like as far as depth, 22 on defense. And like Steve Sarkisian said in his last press conference, trying to figure out what that 22 looks like in special teams. So a lot of stuff came out of yesterday. Well, a little bit of stuff came out of yesterday, not a lot, because again, it was close to the media, close to just about everybody who normally has access. Because again, you're getting really close to game week and want to keep as much of that stuff internal as you possibly can. But do want to thank you guys. We are really close to that 4,000 subscriber goal by September 3rd. Again, that was our goal, 4K by opening day, and it's because of guys like you. Over the last week, we've had progressive growth of the channel, continued that since we started back in late June, early July. So couldn't thank you guys enough for that. The Kelvin Banks, before we get into the two deep, so the notes that we have coming from the scrimmage yesterday, Kelvin Banks suffered an injury in Saturday's scrimmage. Doesn't look like it's too bad. The folks where we got our information from, where we read some stuff, said if it was actually a game situation, probably would have taped it back up and got back out there. Again, Quinn Ewers had limited snaps in the scrimmage, but hit Xavier Worthy and Casey Kane on some deep balls. Again, defense continues to show out. Keaton Crawford with a pick six. Terrence Brooks, a young freshman. Again, we're going to get in two deep and the impact of the freshman in the two deep later on the show. Made a play. Your thoughts on the notes coming out of the scrimmage, as minimal as they were, just doesn't seem like much has changed. Just trying to figure out who those primary backups are going to be for the football team.
Yeah, I think it's Steve Sarkisian has gone on multiple press conferences and talked about it's the most important thing is trying to figure out who your backup guys are going to be. From a standpoint of, we could probably name everybody, probably minus one person. I think we may, depending on the sets they run, 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, 22 personnel, they may differ a little bit. I know our 13 personnel differs just a little bit, but I think our 12 personnel is the same. But I think it's outside of just those frontline, those starters that you're going to see, who is going to be able to come in and back up a Jordan Whittington. We'll talk a little bit about Savion Red. We actually went back and watched some Savion Red film this morning. Me and you were actually talking to him. We actually sent a DM to Mike Roach, who we'll probably have on the show at some point to talk about the freshmen and how they could impact this program moving forward this year on the team. But I think it's just identifying who those guys are going to play behind Deshaun Jameson. And it sounds like Jameer Johnson may have locked down that spot, just like it sounds like Brooks may have locked down that spot behind Watts. So I think that's what's important, man, is kind of just figuring out what that two deep looks like, what that three deep looks like. But it also tells you that you got to bubble wrap these guys, man, moving forward. But a guy like with Kelvin Banks, man, you got to get him as many reps as you possibly can. Leading up to the season. So I don't think you can sideline that guy and say, hey, you know what? We're gonna sit you out and let a two deep guy, maybe like Andre Carriage, come in. Kind of tells you where we think Kelvin Banks is going to be at the beginning of the season. But I think you have to get these guys as many reps as possibly can. DJ Campbell and a guy like Cam Williams, who we think is probably going to have an opportunity to play at right tackle at some point.
So it sounds like they use this scrimmage similar to how the NFL utilize as preseason games. I tuned in to Dallas versus Los Angeles Chargers last night, expecting to see the starters on offense and defense for the Cowboys, meaning Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Parsons, because generally, historically speaking, next to last preseason game is when you see your starters come out and get a series or two. That didn't happen. It sounds like that's exactly how the Longhorns' philosophy of this final scrimmage was dictated and how they played it out. Was we have a good idea, and we talked about this on Friday's show. I had a 90% idea of what the starting 11 on offense looked like. I had a 90 to 95% idea, give or take a player, on the defense, but I felt like I had a good, strong 11, like you said, depending on if I'm in a 3-3-5 or a 4-2-5. And on the offensive side of the football, whether I'm in 13 personnel, whether I'm in 22 personnel, what those guys look like. Because you got a good sense of everything you read and everything you've heard of who those top 20 guys are on offense and defense, maybe 15. I'll say 15 on offense and defense. And then it's kind of like you said, dividing those reps out in the scrimmage to figure out exactly who you feel comfortable with. Again, not necessarily for ULM, because, again, a lot of these guys are going to hopefully get repetitions against ULM and live game action before you suit up against that juggernaut on September 10th in Alabama. And if somebody because we've dealt with injuries, right? Isaiah Nair goes down, Junior Angilau goes down, Jadae Barron goes down. Alfred Collins has been nursing. You got a Jai Hall out for suspension. So you're going to need to figure out who your two deep is. And again, that trust to put them in a football game and understand that they're not going to have that far a detriment of talent from your ones. And that's where this scrimmage kind of seems like kind of solidified probably some of those things for the coaches. And again, it's going to give those young kids who are on that two deep or trying to break in that two deep practice reps and film sessions to get better. But 13 days from real football, preparation for ULM begins this time next week. It's probably already begun, but it's game week starting this day a week from now. And like the folks that are watching this channel, we couldn't be more excited to be part of it and to cover it. And because there's a lot of fire going on around this program, both positive and negative.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of it comes down to the amount of freshmen and sophomore you currently have on this football team. I think that you're going to have a good season this year, but I think it's about the growth of really these freshmen, sophomores that are going to be moving into, because these guys are going to be, unless they play 2 years and they're out. And then we move into the SEC, and depending on 24 or 25, and it sounds closer to 24 than it does sound 25. I think that's where your growth needs. I think turn over the roster, get your guys in, your freshmen and sophomores in. Because if you look at the transfers, Watts as a junior, chance of him playing in the SEC is probably not going to happen. Billingsley, same thing. But I think it's the trajectory of the program with these freshmen and sophomores is really what you're looking at this year. And I think they're going to play a lot of snaps. And I think that's important, because you're going to go in next year to think that, okay, these freshmen are now sophomores, true sophomores, if they don't redshirt. Think about the in-game snaps they've got, depending on, if it's at Alabama and you're getting, skull drug across the field for 4 quarters, which I don't think is going to happen. I can't wait till we do that preview. But I think it's the number of snaps they're getting against the competition they're getting that's going to allow these guys to grow in season. There's
Absolutely.
only so much you're going to teach them and develop them over the next 13 days, right? It's kind of where they're at. The playbook's not going to be thrown out, and you're going to add another playbook, both on the defensive side. You're not going to change defensive schemes. I think it's more where they're concerned about, are they consistent each and every play when they have an opportunity to play in these scrimmages? Are they using the techniques that they're teaching them to be able to tackle, teach them techniques to be able to rush up the field as inside defenders? So I think 13 days is really just, to me, what's most important is, and they're probably doing a lot of 7 and 11, probably a lot of 7-on-7, airs on route, is getting Quinn Ewers comfortable. And I know he's had a lot of first team snaps, but getting Quinn Ewers and the timing of these wide receivers down to a point where he can throw the ball before they make their breaks. That's absolutely important, because that's what Steve Sarkisian wants in his offense. He don't want guys stopping. He wants guys running, and he wants those balls in their hands while they have an opportunity to get yards after catch.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with what you had to say. And that's why, Quinn Ewers we'll go back and we'll talk about his ability to put the ball on a dime in every specific area that I've ever seen him have to do it. Like I say, hash mark to hash mark, can throw every route through the route tree. It's essential that like you said, he hits them at the top of the route while they're on the move, that they're not having to reach back for balls or stop for balls. And I think that's an element that he gives you, is that accuracy, to not be afraid. That gunslinger that everybody, critiques him for and feels like it's going to lead him to throw interceptions, also allows you to put a ball in a tight spot. I watched a throw yesterday that I feel like he would have made with Chase Daniel against the Los Angeles Chargers against the Dallas Cowboys. Basically, it was under coverage by the corner. The safety had responsibility with the top. Safety was late getting there. The throw was behind the receiver. Receiver tips the ball, and as soon as that one false step, that one microsecond allows the safety to get over there and make a play and knock him out of bounds. But it's throws like that Quinn Ewers gives you the potential to hit. But like I say, when the corner's playing underneath, the safety's starting to come over the top, and he drills it in there to Xavier Worthy on the run, and he's down the sideline for a touchdown or breaking it off the post. That potential we saw against Isaiah Nayer. And this narrative that he's not a good, because there's been folks come out and talk about his intellect and his football IQ and this, that, and the other. I talked to Clint this morning. I feel like Steve Sarkisian's offense is so finely tuned that pre-snap for a quarterback, he knows exactly what his 1, 2, and 3 reads are. He looks at the front, decides if it's a 7 or 8 man box, and makes his decision in the RPO game. Hey, it's a slight box. I'm gonna hand the ball to Bijan Robinson. Hey, it's a heavy box. Hey, I think I could find JT Sanders or Xavier Worthy cutting across the middle, or Jordan Whittington in the zone. He's going to move guys around. Again, he's going to motion guys like Jaleel Billingsley to see if it's man or zone. So there's not a whole lot of football IQ. And again, I don't know where this comes from. He must have been a very smart student to be able to graduate from South Lake Carroll in 3 years. That's just, or he was driven, right? He spent a lot of time in the summer to take extra credits to be able to graduate early. Enrolled in Ohio State early, late in the fall, didn't get much reps, but was able to pick up enough of the system that they trusted him to go out in the games when, again, he just had to hand the ball off. But I'm just saying that I think this whole Quinn Ewers doesn't know the playbook, doesn't have a good IQ, is overblown. And I think Steve Sarkisian is offense is very quarterback friendly, and Quinn Ewers will be able to execute it just as well as any other quarterback in the NCAA, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's crazy that all these teams wanted Quinn Ewers coming out of high school. There wasn't a ranking service that didn't rank him number 1 in multiple classes. But all of a sudden he's named the quarterback of University of Texas, and now you throw all that away and say this guy doesn't have the intellectual ability as a quarterback to lead a team to wins. That's nonsense to me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, where does this, but if you go back and you look at Ohio State, when he decided to decommit from Texas the first time to go to Ohio State, they did a whole bunch of videos on him talking about, we got the best quarterback in the country. You know what I'm saying? And then expect him to come in after he's been in fall camp. I mean, in winter conditioning for 2 weeks and take the damn ball over from CJ Stroud, who was another highly touted quarterback, and lead that team, in Ohio State. So again, it's just crazy conversation, man. When you start going through and looking at these Quinn Ewers videos of him being named the starting quarterback, now all of a sudden he sucks. Brandon's asking me why I'm in a New York City loft.
I dig it.
Is that what it looks like? Maybe my wife's pretty handy with these. She had these bricks put on the wall not too long ago. But yeah, I'll take that as a compliment.
This is nice. It's nice.
I'm just not paying as much as they'd probably. I'm not paying as much as what you would pay it for an inside at New York City loft. Actually, I'm probably paying the same amount for a home in Texas that you're probably going to pay for a New York City loft somewhere. So, but Quinn Ewers talk there, man.
So you want to start with him? We go through our 2 deep on the offensive side, and again, I did mine based off 13 personnel. 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers. And I think this is negotiable, But let's start out with the quarterback position. I think it's going to be Quinn Ewers. It's going to be the starting quarterback against ULM. Your thoughts?
You sure? You sure? There could be some, something that happens overnight that all of a sudden this is changing. Now, at this point, Quinn Ewers is definitely your quarterback. And I'll go with running back next. You want to go with running back? I don't think there's any questions here. I think
Nope.
if you're looking at the two deep running back or quarterback, you're probably looking at Quinn Ewers and then Hudson Card being the backup quarterback there. If you're looking at running back, I think it's hard to say if number 5 is going to be the starting running back, but I would put it 100% chance there. Bijan Robinson is going to be your number 1 guy, and then it's going to be followed up by Roschon Johnson and I believe Keelan Robinson. I don't think that 3 changes. I think you will get some run from some of those other running backs. I'm not going to say garbage time, but when time allows, hoping that you don't get injuries. But I'm going to go those 3 are about going to be my top 3. You got anything different than that?
I might differ a little bit on the 3. Only because I want to see Keelan again, Jonathan Brooks and Keelan Robinson going back to the separation thing. If there is no large separation between those two, then I'm moving. In my opinion, I'm moving Jonathan Brooks up the depth chart. Jonathan Brooks becomes my 3rd running back, and again, I'm using Keelan Robinson in that jet sweep, orbit motion, Brennan Thompson, Savion Red, Keelan Robinson package. And then I'm going to continue to use the hell out of him on special teams on pump block. I'm going to use him in the return game. But I think I'm going to slide 24 above 7 as my number 3 back in the Texas running back room.
Yeah. So we got some people that are different with us on here, man. We got Brooks. Is somebody saying Brooks is number 2? I just don't see Roschon Johnson, a healthy Roschon Johnson, being replaced by Jonathan Brooks at that number 2. It doesn't mean that Jonathan Brooks is not going to get run. It may be the case, and I won't disagree with you on that. I can't disagree with you. I think it's I'm not going to call him a gadget guy, but I think Keelan Robinson allows you to line him up in the slot, allow you to run jet sweeps, bring a different, use that speed that he has. Jonathan Brooks is
a different weapon.
It's a different weapon. Yeah. So I can't disagree with that. So let's start. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Can I talk about Brooks versus Rojo real quick?
And
I talked about this a couple of shows ago when Rojo went down and folks thought it was going to be for an extended period of time. And I'm not going to say that Jonathan Brooks isn't a better running back with the football than Roschon Johnson. But again, I don't know that he has the pass blocking ability yet. I don't know that you can run Wildcat, another weapon that Steve Sarkisian has been known to use. Now, I think they'll be less apt to use the Wildcat with Quinn Ewers behind center as they were last year with Casey Thompson. But again, down there in goal line, short yardage, it's a weapon. He came from high school as a quarterback. He has the ability to throw the ball. I just think it gives you one more thing to put on the table against opposing defense to have them study and work on. So not saying he's a true running back better than Jonathan Brooks. Again, I have more film, more time with Rojo. I saw him bust big play after big play last year. I saw him bust a big play in the spring game for a touchdown. But Jonathan Brooks to me is 3. And then probably I use Keelan in the fashion I talked about earlier.
All right. So running back with quarterback, running back. Let's go ahead and let's talk wide receivers. We'll start from the outside in. Okay. Let's start with wide receivers. I know in your 11 personnel you have actually start tight. Start tight. Let's do tight end. Let's do tight end because I think that's what sets up the 3. So in your 11 personnel, you currently have Jatavian Sanders running your 11 personnel as your tight end, correct?
Correct.
Same here. And Gunnar Helm, another blocking tight end, would be behind him. And then if you're running 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, you have Jaleel Billingsley, and backing up him, you have Juan Davis.
Correct.
We good there? Okay, so then let's go wide receivers. Let's do 11 personnel. That's going to give us 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. Who do you have for your who are your wide receivers? Your top 3 wide receivers.
So I've got, of course, Worthy Whittington, and my 3rd wide receiver is Casey Kane. There's just been too much buzz about Casey Kane making big plays all fall. There has been – he's obviously running with that first group when you talk about Quinn Ewers to Casey Kane, once Isaiah Nair went out, we talked about Troy O'Meara and his body. But Casey Kane has that big body as well. So I really feel like they want to have Whittington working against the middle of the field. They want Worthy out there by himself, one-on-one, as many times as they could possibly get it. And I think they still want that jump ball, large frame, wingspan of Casey Kane to be the one.
You selling barbecue in Clifton, Texas over the radio, Jeremy?
If a barbecue joint wants to to sponsor Texas Football Talk, I will gladly promote them every show we do. But no, I haven't done any voiceovers for any barbecue folks. But
all right, so my three, I'm going to actually go a little different than Jeremy here, man. Obviously, Xavier Worthy and Jordan Whittington are going to. To me, they're going to start with the ones. I'm going to go Tariq Milton. I think Tariq Milton, with the experience he has playing in the Big 12, coming from Iowa State, had a big 2019 season. Injuries, kind of injury prone, kind of dealing with the same thing as Jordan Whittington. But I'm going to go Tariq Milton as my third wide receiver. But then we can talk about who are the guys that are coming off the bench. I think it's important, and I think it's unproven guys. And I'm going to go with my first three wide receivers off the bench and let me know if you agree with this, okay? Because we don't know the status of where Troy O'Meara currently sits at with coming back from his 2 knee surgeries. So I'm going to go Savion Red behind Jordan Whittington. Guy's a beast, man. If you had an opportunity to go watch his film, I watched the 7-on-7 between Louisiana team, the Bootleggers versus the Texas team called True Buzz today. And on that Louisiana team, there were a couple of guys by the name of Bryce Anderson and Jacoby Matthews that went on to play for Texas A&M that are a class in front of him. And Savion Red did his thing. All right, so that's my one guy. Then I'm going to obviously go with Casey Kane. I think he gives you that deep ball threat, that 50-50 threat that Steve Sarkisian is going to be looking for in the pass game. And then obviously you can't take away the speed from Brennan Thompson. So those are my 3 wide receivers coming off the bench at this point. I think if Xavier Worthy needs a breath, I give Brennan Thompson some run. I think if Jordan Whittington needs a breath, I think you give Savion Red an option, run him out there. And I think if Tariq Milton comes off the field, I think and again, these guys are interchangeable in Steve Sarkisian's offense. He puts guys out there that are interchangeable. X, Y, and Z really doesn't matter. But I think you're going to see Casey Kane get some run as well.
So because I had Casey Kane starting, of course, Milton would be a part of my next 3, along with Savion Red and Brennan Thompson. I don't want to brush over the Savion Red thing because what got us started watching his film was all the buzz coming out of fall camp. So I went back and looked at his composite ranking from 247. Saw that he was the 1,414th player in the country, an 84th grade. And I reached out to Mike and I was like, "Hey, Mike, what are we missing? Can you come on the show and basically talk about Savion Red's ability?" And then it led to us talking about, all the freshmen in the 2 deep and their impact. And like Clint said earlier, we're going to have Mike on next couple of weeks. Once he gets settled in, moving into a new home, he's going to come on the show to discuss DJ Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Cole Hudson, Savion Red, Brennan Thompson, and all these guys we're talking about who are going to probably crack the 2 deep this year. But then you have Jai Hall and Troy O'Meara. So that just tells you, even after losing Isaiah Nair to a season-ending ACL injury, the depth of this receiver core, we feel like, again, you don't want to take too many more injuries in this class or in this room. You want to put bubble wrap on most of these guys until the first game against the University of Louisiana Monroe. But so, yeah, after my 3 of Kane, Whittington, and Worthy, I have Red, Thompson, and Milton. And then I really believe that Jai Hall at some point is going to come back to this program this year and going to contribute. I believe Troy O'Meara will eventually be able to take that knee brace off and be able to contribute to this program this year. I just don't know how much. That's why my top 6 are who they are. And like I said, those guys are wild cards and like you said, capable of bringing a lot to this program if able to get back on the football field.
All right, so Brandon Longhorn here, boys, the wide receiver and running back balance this year, or one group dominate more than the other? You got 2 preseason All-Americans, man, and Xavier Worthy and Bijan Robinson. But Sark wants to run the ball first, and Bijan is going to be your bell cow. anytime you get an opportunity to hand number 5 the ball, if it's in the backfield or getting one a wheel route or out in the open against a safety, or a cornerback or a linebacker, Sarkisian's going to take a bit advantage of that. So I'm going to say the running back room to me is the top. I'm going to say they're the top position group on the team at this point. And the reason I'm going to say that is because when you're looking at receivers, obviously Jordan Whittington before the Oklahoma game last year was the leading receiver. Xavier Worthy kind of had to do it on his own after that game as a receiver. But unfortunately, Jordan Whittington hasn't stayed healthy through a season. Tariq Milton is coming from Iowa State, who's also been often injured. And I think you just have unproven guys in Casey Kane, Sevion Red, and Brennan Thompson. So I'm going to say the running backs is where Sarkisian's going to lean on. He wants that. That's why he wants big humans, man. He wants those big humans to lean on those guys, and he wants to run the ball first. So I'm going to say definitely the running back room.
And I want to talk about play distribution and balanced offense. Texas ran 66 plays per game last year, which was 100 out of 130 teams. And I just want them to be able to run 75 plays this year. I think it'll allow for more complementary football. Again, there was too many times last year when Texas offense would have a hard start and then would go 3 and out for 4 or 5 straight possessions, and allowing the other team to come back, tire out your defense, which led to second half collapses. I said that to say this. I think their game plan is going to be to try to run the ball 40 times and try to pass the ball 35 times. I think that's a good balance. I think in that, you're going to have Rojo get some carries. You're going to have, of course, Bijan get his amount of carries. Keelan get some carries. Again, they're going to work. And Jonathan Brooks get some carries, conventional. But at the same time, I think a lot of that orbit sweep stuff, a lot of quick pitches, a lot of throws behind the line of scrimmage to kind of, and screen passes to kind of, and that's what you want to do against teams like Alabama, is get them upfield and work the ball behind them. Right behind the defensive lineman, in front of the linebackers. I think that's going to be a little bit of our game plan there. But I want to see 75 total plays per game, divided up in about 40 rushes and 35 passes. I think that's a good number. I think you can win with that number. And I think this offense, again, is going to score points. It's going to be up to the defense, where we're going to move to in just a minute, to hold teams under 24 points per game. And I think you win a whole lot of ball games, and you're talking about achieving the goals that these guys are talking about, and that's competing for a Big 12 championship.
All right, Candace got a question for you. I think it's a really good one. Do you think versus ULM, he sends out the starters like Bijan, X, Jay Witt for a few plays, and then sits them for the younger guys to get a lot of reps and preserve those starters for Bama? You want to answer this first? You want me to answer it?
My hope is yes. You hope to get out there and score on your first couple of possessions in the game, and then start rotating. I don't think you'll sit them in the first half. You probably won't see them sit until the third quarter, but you're probably going to see a lot of rotation at the receiver position. You're going to see them coming off, maybe running 2 plays and come off the field for a couple. Just again, you don't want them to be rusty. And Texas plays 8 games. I was looking at the schedule this morning. They play 8 games before they get their bye. They're gonna be beat up. So I think rotation is important in this season to get as many reps for the young guys as you possibly can. And I think you're right, Candace, that you're not going to want to burn them or burn plays for them, burn repetitions on their body going into Alabama week if you can prevent it. But it's going to be score and game situation dictated. But I do think you'll see a lot of rotating at the receiver core during the ULM game. Absolutely.
Going back to last year, adjustments after the half were a problem. I don't think adjustments against ULM is a thing, but I think you let it run itself through the halftime, come out through halftime, at least get them one drive. And I think you'll see this from the defense side of the ball as well. Defense usually is going to stay a little longer than the offense because you're trying, obviously you want shutouts. You want to keep points on the board. And I don't think that your second team can't come in and do the same thing against ULM, but definitely coming through. They'll make it through the half. They'll go through the half, probably 1 or 2 drives into the half to make sure that they can come out of a half, do the same thing they did in the first half. And I think you're right. You want to get them as much playing time as you can. You want to get them hit. without injury, you want them to get hit as much as they possibly can, working themselves to that Alabama game. And I think it's important that you do that. So I'm going to go. If I was to look at it today, I would probably say through the second half, come out after halftime, run a couple of drives, and then let your second and third teams come in and finish the game for you.
That's the optimal outcome in my mind. Like you said, is come out of halftime, put the starters back on the field for what maybe one or two drives, and then pull them.
Yeah.
Can I promote the channel just real quick, because there's 180 folks in here. We're halfway through the show, 30 minutes. Please hit that like button. Currently, there's 183 people in here, Clint, watching us on a Sunday afternoon, which we couldn't have imagined this kind of turnout, but really couldn't imagine that on a Saturday morning last week when we kind of do these off scheduled during the day shows. But really appreciate everybody coming in here. 184 folks in here. Before we move to the defense, please hit that like button. Currently, it's under the word too deep in too deep discussion, which we're currently going to move to the defensive side of the ball. And I did mine based
Not
upon
quite
a
yet.
4-2-5. You got something else?
We haven't done the offensive line yet.
See. My bad. Thank you.
Yeah, we haven't done the offensive line.
Me online.
I got to get you back. So
offensive.
Yeah, I got you. So offensive line. Let's start at the let's do tackles and work ourselves in, man. I think it's important. Left tackle, I think if you've listened to the show enough, Kelvin Banks is who we have for your left tackle. There's just too much information out there. It sounds like his injury is minor. If it was a game time situation, he'd probably taped it back up and went back in. I think Kelvin Banks is your left tackle. Currently starting. Right tackle is more than likely. I think it's going to be Christian Jones, but I think it's probably going to be a dogfight between Christian Jones and Andre Carriage. But I think you also have to throw Cam Williams in there as well. So I think you got on the left tackle, Kelvin Banks, Andre Carriage. On the right tackle, I think you're also going to have Christian Jones and Andre Carriage kind of fighting that right tackle position out once they kind of solidified the left tackle position. But I think you got to watch out for Cam Williams in that 3 deep if the left tackle.
I agree. I agree with both of your starters, but I will say if there's a position that if you don't produce, that if you have holding calls, if you have pre-snap penalties, if your tape looks bad, this is one of those positions that could after the ULM game switch hands. I think it's one of those positions that is truly still up for grabs. I think I agree with your starters currently. I think you got Christian Jones at right tackle and Kelvin Banks at left tackle. But like you said, Carriage and Williams will be fighting hard for that right tackle position, in my opinion.
Roger, he comes in here every show. Roger Oakman comes in every show, and he gives us his opinion on everything Texas. So hey. They want us to hit the timeout button on him. So if it gets too crazy, we'll hit the timeout button. But until then, we'll kind of let him hang out in here. I read his comments as well. I just kind of roll by him at this point. Once you've been doing this for about 2 years, you kind of roll by the troll comments. But all right, so let's start with guard, man. Left guard, Hayden Connor, backed up by, I believe, a DJ Campbell, because I think these guards are interchangeable right to left.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go Cole Hudson's going to start at right guard. And again, backed up by DJ Campbell at right guard. Your guards, who do you got?
I agree with your starters. I think it's going to be Connor and Hudson. But I do need to find a third. I need to find a fourth guard. I understand that if DJ Campbell's the best guard, that he's going to have to play swing. But I want somebody to step up and give me a fourth guard to be able to put in that rotation at that guard position. Who that's going to be, I think it needs to be somebody with a little bit of experience. But who do I think it will be? It'll probably be one of these young freshmen. And I can't really concentrate when you throw comment after comment after comment up there. But that's who I got right now.
All right, center. I think if Junior Angelau, unfortunately, he got injured. I think he would have had an opportunity to run with the ones, man, because I think they wanted bigger humans on the field. But it really goes back to Jake Majors, who's played, who has experience. So he'll definitely be your center. I think he's backed up by, at this point, I think it probably a toss-up between Connor Robertson and Logan Parr at that center position. It sounds like they're the ones that have been running with the two deep and 3 deep. But you also have DJ Campbell, man, that's taking some center snaps in the fall once he came in. So he may be still in the mix for that. We'll kind of see what it is, but I think really DJ Campbell is going to at one point by the end of the season. Really, it's hard for me to say that DJ Campbell's going to get run when you got Cole Hudson's played the way he's played, through the spring, through the fall, and you got a guy like Hayden Connor playing that other guard position. But again, I think these guys are interchangeable depending on how they play, in season. So if they think that DJ Campbell could come in and start his guard and run with the ones, I think some of these guys are interchangeable because I think you have the depth now that you didn't have. Hell, you couldn't run a spring game and run out too deep. You couldn't run an actual spring game because you didn't have enough offensive linemen to actually run out there. So I think you got a rotatable 7 or 8 guys that actually could come out and play and give you some playing time, which is important.
Yeah, you do. I feel better about the tackles than I do about the guards. Again, if you're talking about DJ Campbell being 3A and 3B, I need somebody else to step up in that interior piece. And again, that's where a guy like Junior hurts you because Junior could cross train and play center and guard. But yeah, I need a third guy to step up behind, or a fourth guy to step up behind Hudson, DJ Campbell, and Hayden Connor. Now, who's that going to be?
All right, you've been trying to go to the defense side of the ball. I think it's probably the more difficult one for us, man. I think the offense kind of is where it is at this point. Offensive line, maybe not, but I think when you're talking about running back, quarterback, and wide receivers, I think you got an idea who's going to go out there. So. And
again, for me, it doesn't matter who walks out there first. Keandre kind of talked about this in his media availability that they feel because the secondary is kind of set for me. And nickel, I think we have the same list of guys. Whether you're running a 4-2-5 or a 3-3-5, in my mind, you're pulling probably Obi off the field and you're putting Diamante Tucker Dorsey in that linebacker spot. If you go from 3-3 to 4-2, but to me, it's kind of the same group of names: the Collins, the Ojomos, the Murphys, and then behind them, you're talking about Sweat, you're talking about Broughton, you're talking about so it's the same list of 6. And on the defensive line, that's a position on the football field where they change out regularly. So I'm looking for a 2 deep more in a sense of naming who that front line 6 is, and I think we got a good idea of who that is versus who's the first 3 that walk out on the field in a 3-3-5, or who's the first 4 that walk out in a 4-2-5. But I think the names are going to be the same. The 2 deep is just as easy to do on the defensive side as it is on the offensive side. With just a couple of, like I said, intricacies. You're bringing a defensive lineman off the field and you're sticking in DTD as your middle linebacker in a 3 linebacker set. But whenever you're ready, I'm ready to go.
No, I think it's important. I think it is when you're down out this really the interior defensive line in your larger defensive ends like Alfred Collins or Moro Jomo. These guys are interchangeable because they can play inside and they can play outside, depending on the scheme that you want to run. And you go back and look at, we talked about versatility in our last defensive back preview. I think you have the versatility with these defensive linemen to play, some defensive linemen, not all of them, to play both inside and outside because they've done it, So when you're looking at really a 2 deep, I think you're right when it comes to the defensive line, and I think the way they rotate out. But if I was to say these guys are going to start today, this is who I'd have been named. I think that Byron Murphy gives you a better opportunity to get an inside rush. So I think he comes out and starts game 1 against ULM.
He's my nose tackle too.
Nose tackle. Who do you got at your defensive tackle in your edges?
Jomo. And then I got on a 4 down lineman. I've got Jomo as my 3 technique, and then Alfred Collins outside is one of my defensive ends, and then Ovi Agofu in a 4-man set. But if I'm 3 down lineman, I'm going Collins, Jomo, and with on the outside and Murphy in the middle.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you at the same place, man. There's no changes in who we have there. But I think go ahead, Jeremy.
No, and like I said, the key is going to be when you bring in a Sweat, a Coburn, a Broughton, that there is no fall off, that these guys are ready to get out there and put just as much pressure on the quarterback. And again, these names when I say a first team and a second team, Keandre Coburn and Tavondre Sweat may walk out on the field first. As now, probably not that combination because I think Murphy's a guy that has to stay on the field as a first teamer. But if you bring in that second swarm of 3-down linemen or 4-down linemen, it's important that when Barron Sorrell enters the game, if he's backing up Alfred Collins, and I'm sure that's not going to be a drop off because again he's my breakout player of the year on the defensive line. That the pressure rate continues, the havoc rate continues. That we're pushing the pocket up the middle, just like Keandre said. That you're allowing your defensive backs to not have to cover near as long, and you're bringing running backs down in the backfield or contacting the backfield to stop what would be last year's 5.2 yards per carry.
And K-Law's here talking about 3-down linemen. I'm going with Sweat, Murphy, and Ojabo. There's nothing wrong with that because those guys, Sweat, you've seen what he can do. He's a prototypical NFL lineman that can move. He's a big guy that can move. And I know that this year they want to get as much interior pressure as they possibly can on that quarterback to help out those defensive ends. But I think a big name that's kind of been out there is really Vernon Broughton. I think he's lost some weight. I think he has kind of come into his own over the last couple of years. So I think you're going to see big things from them. But outside of those guys that we've named, I think there's going to be some other guys at the end where we'll have an opportunity to see them play. And I think you're looking at, and this is, again, I talked about this. I'm not sure if I talked about this yesterday. Hell, we've done so many lives and shows. We did a show on Longhorns yesterday. So I brought it up at one point, but if you go back and watch the Kelvin Banks video, it may make people worry a little bit. I was watching Kelvin Banks at an Under Armour, I think 50 or something. And he was actually going against Justice Finkley, and Justice Finkley gave Kelvin Banks all he wanted. So I think you're going to see a Justice Finkley. I think you're going to see a Jamon Tapp. Hell, you may see a Ethan Burke. I think the list goes on. And I think from a defensive line standpoint, both on with edge rushers and defensive linemen, I think the more the merrier. Most teams do really good the better they got. And as long as that 2 deep and that 3 deep is strong and there's not a lot of changing, there's not a lot of athletic ability that goes away with one versus the other, I think you put yourself in it because trenches win. Trenches is what wins games, man. And that defensive front is going to be the most important. Them and the offensive line are going to be the most important position groups on the field this year. By far, you can't have a 5.2 yards rush per average, rush per, 5.2 yards per rush average. That's got to come down a lot. You got to get interior pressure on the quarterback, pushing the center back into the quarterback's lap. So he's uncomfortable. He's not able to 3-step drop and to get the ball out, which causes our wide receivers to have 70% catch rate on them. So,
you said receivers, but you meant corners. And Dorba and DJ Harris and guys like that who've been in the program for a while. We talked about them. I only mention them because they're coming up in the comments. Are guys that we talked about on our Edge show. You just haven't heard much from other players or coaches talking about highlights for those guys in the fall. That's the reason why we're talking about a guy like Tapp. We're talking about a guy like Justice Finkley. We're talking about Ethan Burke because they're the names that are coming out of, teammates on the same side of the ball. When you're talking about Coburn, when he was shouting them out this last media availability, and at the same time, JT Sanders talked about Ethan Burke's potential at 6'7" and his speed off the edge and how strong he is. So not to say that DJ Harris might not get some run, not to say that Prince Dorba might not get run, but it's just the names that you keep hearing are the guys that are new on campus, like a Jamon Tapp, a Justice Finkley, and Ethan Burke. But yeah, it couldn't be. And Jeray Bledsoe's another name. Chris Ross. You may see these guys rotate in against ULM, and interested to see how them as young freshmen. Again, I think they're a little undersized. Talking about Chris Ross and Jeray Bledsoe at this point in their career. Aaron Bryant's the one that's coming in at already 300 plus pounds. The kid out of Mississippi who's probably going to play a little bit of nose, a little bit of defensive tackle against ULM. But that's why games like this are important. And that's why, these guys getting pushed into the system, getting reps, game reps, being really interested. But I don't see them in our 2 deep just yet. But with the competition out of this 57 new folks, these 57 freshmen and sophomores out of these 85 scholarship players, there's a whole lot of competition. And that's, like Clint said, that's one of the areas, defensive line, offensive line, that we hope that that iron sharpens iron, and that good competition in practice allows us to see that top 8 pretty easily. And you understand why they're on the football fields on Saturdays, against Alabama and in conference.
You got to think about how much run DeMarvion Overshown's going to obviously get at that edge position as well. And let's kind of just get us to
too.
but really quick, man. 217 people on here on a Sunday afternoon at 1:44. Didn't expect it, but hey, enjoy it, and we appreciate it. I was actually going to put out a number. We were talking about trajectories of programs. In the last 90 days, we have seen a growth of 537 subscribers in 90 days. So if you haven't hit that subscriber button, please hit that subscriber button. If you have not hit the like button today, please hit that like button. It's a race to 4,000. We compete with ourselves, and we have goals on our board. Jeremy has them above his head over there. And one of those goals was to try to reach 4,000 subscribers before the season starts. And I think we were 33 or 100, I don't know, about around 130 people or 130 subscribers from hitting that before the season starts.
I can give you a quick update. So it's 3875, 3,875 is our current subscriber total. Just jumped up to 3,879 while I was talking. So 121 subscribers away from 4K. 4K from opening day is the slogan. And again, we were football players growing up. So if we hit our goal, the board will change to 4,100, 4,200. Because again, we compete with ourselves, not necessarily with other channels out there. Because we believe that the guys like Fanatic Perspective, Locked on Longhorns, the show we were able to go on yesterday, Texas Homer, Nino's Corner, the folks you see on our channel and you see us on their channel, deliver outstanding content, and they allow us to cross promote, and we're thankful for that. And at the same time, we compete with ourselves on a daily basis to try to bring you the best football content, personal content that Texas Football Talk can deliver. And we are so appreciative of your response. Like Clint said, 500 and something subscribers. When we came back in June, we never thought that we'd be able to pick back up right where we left off, but it's because of folks like you who believe in us and watch us and continue to promote us and let us know that we're doing a halfway decent job. Again, that's why we're able to get folks like Rod Babers, Mike Roach, Nino's Corner, Steven from Fanatic Perspective. It's because folks like you continue to come in and support this channel, show in, show out. And again, we couldn't be, just 2 more subscribers. So we're at 3881. So keep coming in here. Please keep supporting us because we really appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's move on to the linebackers, man. Probably the biggest transfer of all, outside of probably Quinn Ewers, I'm going to say Quinn Ewers from Ohio State, who's obviously been your quarterback. I think Tucker Dorsey, Diamante Tucker Dorsey is probably the biggest transfer, and he's the latest one. You know what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden you're looking at a guy from James Madison, from an FCS school, which is now an FBS school, that played damn near in every semifinal or championship at the FCS level over the last couple of years. I've actually went and watched a film. And getting a guy like Tucker Dorsey. So if you're looking at it, you're looking at your 2 linebackers. When we're talking about it, you're looking at DeMarvion Overshone and Jalen Ford being your 2 starting linebackers. But I think having a guy like, Diamante Tucker Dorsey allows you to really play DeMarvion Overshone in some other spots on the field to create mismatches, on the defense side of the ball. So your thoughts on your linebacker and who you have currently sitting at your 2 deep. And I could have gone a little further than that. I think your 2 deep is you're going to have to add David Benda in there as well. Those would be your 4 linebackers.
The 2 that I wrote were Devin Richardson and David Benda. Again, you don't know the status of Luke Brockermeyer coming back from his knee injury, but I think you hit the nail right on the head. Bringing in Diamante Tucker Dorsey allows you to do the things with DeMarvion Overshone that we talked about, walking down the line of scrimmage, pre-snap, pick on offenses, pick on mismatches, along with Jalen Ford and his speed element and ability to cover. You guys like the show. Sam gets bored by us. I don't know if you guys can hear him snoring back here, but it's progressively gotten louder as the show's gone on. But yeah, David Benda, Devin Richardson, along with Diamante Tucker Dorsey and Jalen Ford are your traditional stand-up linebackers. And then, like I say, you're going to move Overshone. You're going to put him in the middle of the field. You're going to have him threatening the A gap, threatening the B gap. You're going to have him outside, lining up over tackles to utilize that speed. Pretty cut and dry for me on the 5 and 6 5 or 6 linebackers that you're going to see Texas employ this fall. And
All right,
I saw a super chat up there.
Go ahead. Texas Dirty Boy here for $4.99, and we appreciate you, man. TDB here, man, sitting as $4.99 super chat. Cobra said they're going to dominate. Think he will eat those words after game 2, or do we match up well against a not so good Bama? I'm not going to use. Let's not use Alabama as the. Actually, we should probably use them as the gauge, because that's going to be your second game. You're going to play a ULM. Do I think they're going to be the gauge for your defensive line? You hope you go out there and dominate them. But I think the proof is in the pudding. And I've said it over and over again, it's hard for me to put the burnt orange glasses on the defensive line and really this defense until you see it in motion. Do I think the trajectory of the defense is going to be better than last year? It can't get any worse. And I think if Jeremy talked about it earlier, I think if you allow 24 points per game, then you're allowing yourself to win a whole bunch of football games, because there's not going to be very many teams that are not going to give up more than 20. You're not going to be able to score 24 points against. Your thoughts?
But I appreciate the $4.99 Texas Dirty Boy, and I appreciate the sentiment because Clint hit the nail on the head with the defensive line. We think that's why this is the most important room for Texas football going into the 2022 season. We feel pretty good about the linebackers with Jalen Ford and DTD getting added to that group. We feel really good about the back ends being an ability to cover. It's this group. And why? Because there are a whole lot of juniors and seniors here that have been in this program for a long time who have not produced. That's why we're talking about names like Coburn. We're talking about names like Broughton. We're talking about names like Alfred Collins, who moved around positions. He's a junior too, and so is Broughton. But trying to get new blood in there, because the Sweats, the Coburns, and those guys haven't been productive in the past. But I think it's a litmus test, not just for the defensive line. I think Alabama's a test for every team or every position group here. Their corners are going to test our deep receiver group. Their linebackers are going to test our ability to run the football. When you're talking about Bijan and Roshan, they're going to test Quinn Ewers and his ability to read coverages. Nick Saban's going to throw the kitchen sink at him. But I don't necessarily think he's going to eat his words. I just hope this front 3, top 6 defensive linemen, because again, if you talk to anybody from Alabama, they'll tell you that this is their worry is their ability on the offensive line to create holes for the running backs and to keep people off Bryce Young. And so I would love to see our defensive line go out there and prove something against Alabama, but I don't think it's just a defensive line issue. I think it's across the board. Alabama's going to be litmus test for every position group that we have at the University of Texas, and that's what you want.
Don't say that, Corey, man. I hope not, man. I don't want to look agitated, aggravated while reading the screen, man. I'm looking at the screen. I'm trying to grab comments and stuff. Hopefully I don't do that. If you want to see aggravated Clint, and it's funny, I never went back and watched this, but we were having a conversation with Steven about our most watched, and y'all go back and watch it, by the way, our most watched show, and it was actually Arkansas game. And I got so aggravated, I asked the people that were watching, we were going to send them the link to the show to add them on there. So that's aggravated Clint. Hopefully we don't come across like that. I want to make sure this is a family environment and that we don't do that.
And I do want to say that please go back and watch the first 30 seconds of the Arkansas post-game show, because I did threaten to use that as the 30-second countdown that went crazy tonight. Didn't even go down to 30 seconds. It started at 25 and ended at 20, popped us up there, and we went to talking. But I threatened to use that 30-second clip of Clint inviting folks that were in the chat onto the show to tell me and Clint what we didn't know about football as our 30-second clip to begin the show. Probably not going to do that, but I think it would be great maybe once or twice to use it post-game because Clint was pretty fired up as I've ever seen him. But that day was kind of tough, the Arkansas game, and then pop it on 5 minutes after it to discuss, Texas' inability to stop a 3-man rush and to watch quarterbacks get flipped, and it was tough. But I don't think he gets agitated. He's just trying to focus on what will continue the show.
You got to read this comment here, man. It's I feel completely opposite. Jeremy looks aggravated. Clint smiles a lot. So
sometimes I get aggravated because Clint I'll tell you, I did get aggravated one time in the show because Clint will tell you it's too deep. And then as I'm discussing mine, he'll throw up comments and it completely busts my train of thought. So yeah, that is fair. That sometimes I do get aggravated. because Clint will be able to get out his thought because he runs the show. As soon as he's done talking, he'll throw up a comment or two while I'm talking. So, yeah, that definitely happened at least once in the show today. But we love each other. Hell, we've been talking ball for 45 years, been hanging out with each other for 43 years. I was telling Colleen that yesterday. Me and this dude shared a bedroom for the first 18 years of our adult life. So, yeah, I'm sure we do get on on each other's nerves every now and then. But I don't think either one of us are agitated. We love doing this. We never want to come across as being now trolls coming in, and Clint, like Clint said, we've gotten a lot better at handling stuff like that over the last couple of years. I believe, and again, bringing them into the show and just not paying attention. But we talked about defensive line, talked about linebackers. Let's get to the secondary, and I think
I'm actually
secondary.
I'm actually pulling up some stuff right now on Pro Football Focus because people are asking us in the comment. They're talking about tackling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about. So we'll start with the corners. Deshaun Jameson is obviously going to be one corner. It sounds like Ryan Watts is going to be the other, and then we'll go ahead and throw the nickel in there, the star in there, and it sounds like Ja'Day Barron, but it sounds like Jameer Johnson. I have Jameer Johnson backing up Deshaun Jameson. I have Brooks, believe it or not, true freshman, 17 years old, not even sure if he's 18 yet, backing up Ryan Watts. And then at that nickel star position, Jaylon Gilbo is backing him up. Is your 2 deep any different than what I have?
I have, let me grab my paper, flip it over because I'm taking notes. So the back end, I do have Ja'Day Barron as a star. Like you said, Gilbo's going to give him everything that he needs. And just hearing the coach talk about it, if Ja'Day Barron is currently injured, Jaylon Gilbo has to go out there and play as a star. I feel perfectly comfortable about that. My outside corners, again, Deshaun Jameson, like you said, backed up by Jameer Johnson, and Ryan Watts backed up by Terrence Brooks. Again, didn't realize how good Terrence Brooks was when he decommitted from Ohio State, and we were lucky to get him on signing day at the University of Texas. But the number 3 cornerback in all of high school football last year is Terrence Brooks. Again, very young but physical. Ryan Watts, same thing. And then my current safeties are Jaron Thompson and Anthony Cook. And like you talked about earlier, or we talked about before we came on air, I need Anthony Cook to stay healthy. Because after Anthony Cook at that strong safety position, there's a whole lot of youth. Again, talking J.D. Coffey, actually going to pull down real quick, and I hope it doesn't mess up the sound. Our safeties, Anthony Cook, Jaron Thompson, Keaton Crawford, Mo Blackwell. I think Mo Blackwell backing up Anthony Cook currently is who I have. Again, when we did our defensive back preview yesterday, talked about his ability to play special teams. Got to feel a little bit more comfortable with his ability to cover, again, because he is a converted linebacker coming out of Arlington Martin. Love his tenacity, love his hit stick that he has coming out of the secondary. Again, Xavier Worthy and Bijan Robinson could both tell you about it. If you saw the spring game, his ability to hit coming from that safety position, it's just that ability to cover. So currently, like you, Jaron Thompson and Anthony Cook are my starters at safety, backed up by Keaton Crawford, and I will take Mo Blackwell as my backup strong safety. So
Mo Blackwell, may disagree with you a little bit here, man. I'm not sure. You got a couple of young safeties there, and J.D. Coffey and that are true safeties, and B.J. Allen, talented guy coming out of high school last year, that may get some run. I'm not sure. If you see Maurice Blackwell, I would probably say that to Gander, it's probably going to be a situation where you bring him more in around the box than you do have him sitting back as a free safety there, or a strong safety, replacing Anthony Cook. But if I'm going true safety, I'm probably going to go with the J.D. Coffey right now because he's a true safety. It's what he's been playing. He's been there a couple of years, probably understands the system. I just don't think that the coaching staff's going to put Maurice Blackwell out there in a situation where teams may be able to take advantage of his covering skills at this point. I just don't think he has it. I think they're looking for covering skills, their cover skills back there as you can see, moving Ja'Day Barron from corner. These guys have versatility. They have all got versatility. Jaron Thompson played at the nickel. Anthony Cook played corner and star. So I know you're shaking your head here. What you got, man?
Because if you're talking about ability to cover and Jaron Thompson's ability to cover bug, I felt like that's why he might lose his job. But he didn't. And so if you're talking about free safety, if I'm going to have Anthony Cook back there as my coverage guy, then who else would I want to play strong safety and down in the box than a guy like Maurice Blackwell as a backup strong safety? Again, I agree with you. If they're spreading this out and they're an empty and they got nothing but a bunch of slot receivers out there, he's probably not the guy I want out there. But if I know that I'm in second and 3 or third and 3 and I need a safety to be down around the box to make plays, it's going to be Mo Blackwell. Again, you're talking about a guy who's been in the program, inexperienced at the position, but you're talking about guys who are inexperienced at playing college football when you talk about bringing J.D. Coffey and Brian Allen in. Brian Allen is a true freshman. Yeah, I agree with him, agree with you in some sense, but they're the same size. Mo Blackwell, 6'1", 200 pounds. J.D. Coffey, 6 foot, 200 pounds. It hasn't played the position, but I'll challenge you with B.J. Allen hasn't played college football yet. Mo Blackwell has, and that's why I feel more comfortable having him as probably my fourth or fifth safety and the first guy off the bench, in the box, in a box safety position than I would a guy who hasn't played it down to college football. So just my thoughts.
No, so let's talk coverage ability, right? And coverage scores for Pro Football Focus. Janae Barron had the highest out of all of the defensive backs last year at 78.6. That's damn good. And then you had that are currently back on the 40 acres here, Jaron Thompson at 70.4, Anthony Cook at 70.4, Keaton Crawford at 67.2, Jameer Johnson at 63.8. So the guys that you're going to be leaning on this year have really good coverage skills. Let's go to tackling real quick because there's a lot of tackling.
And I agree with those five, and that's why they're starting. But again, when we're talking about too deep, that's what kind of where we're nitpicking each other. We agree on a lot of stuff. We very rarely disagree. But when you're talking about too deep and what Brian Allen could give you over what Mo Blackwell has done at the University of Texas and has experience playing the college game, I'll take his inability or lack thereof, his question coverage ability versus a guy I haven't seen do it at all in college. That's just so I think that's healthy discussion. It's a healthy disagreement when we agree with just about 95% of what each other say and are too deep. I think that's one that I would hedge experience at college versus position experience.
Yeah, and I think it's important because we talked about this before the show, right? Because we could almost name everybody, but then when you're like, what happens when Anthony Cook needs to come out? Who replaces him, right? And I think right now, I think that safety position is probably your most vulnerable. And I think Steve Sarkisian said he's one of the places I'm worried right now is safety, because I think your lack of depth and lack of experience back there outside of a couple of guys leaves you vulnerable. Go ahead. I think you had another thought.
Because I think if you're doing a single high and you lose Anthony Cook as your coverage safety, I think Keaton Crawford could fill that role. But if you're talking about strictly, if you're going too deep and I've got to cover over the top of a cornerback that may get beat, then you're probably looking at a conventional safety like a B.J. Allen. But if you're a single high and trust your cornerbacks to be able to cover in your true scheme now as press man, then I could see a Mo Blackwell being a great guy to have in that Cook role, that star role, that guy that's around the line of scrimmage that I may bring on blitzes sometimes, who I don't have to worry about in the run game, that I know could make an impact tackle and jar the ball loose. That's the kind of guys that I'm looking to utilize if you trust that your cornerbacks can put hands on folks like a Jalen Gilbo, like a Ryan Watts, and just give them minimal help over the top. Then I got game busters in the middle of the field that can make plays and pick the ball off. And like I say, knock the ball out of a receiver's hands that are coming over the middle. Cause like I said, he has a hit stick similar to guys that we've seen in the past that'll knock your head off and make you look around like an Earl Thomas before you want to make that business decision to catch the ball. Cause I think he gives you that piece as well. When you see 37 coming across the field, you got to, kind of give yourself an insurance policy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead. We got a 99 super. I didn't want to pull up this 99 super chat until you were done.
Hit it. No, good.
Yeah.
Good,
all right. Hell, I can't even hit the damn thing. It's weird. Won't even let me put it up there. I wanted to put it up there, but it's like it's gone now.
Hang on. I got you. Maybe. I got you.
I got it. I probably knocked it off when you put it on there.
No.
So H right here, 99 super chat, no question, man. So if anybody else got a question for H after all the Maurice Blackwell situation there, but I think we agree on Maurice Blackwell. You do, but I really want to get into tackling because they brought up a tackling with this group last year, and so I'm going to tell you who the top tacklers are on the football team last year. Okay, number one, Deshaun Jameson had an 88.1 tackling grade. It comes down to, obviously the wide receivers, 5 yard in, 5 yard out, turn around and catch the ball. Sure, tackling was important. Obviously, minimize yards after catch. Number 2 was Anthony Cook at his star position last year, right? 86.1. Next in line would be Keaton Crawford at 78.5. I'm just kind of going through those names. I'm kind of skipping some people here. 78.5. And then it gets topsy-turvy with a couple other guys. So you're talking about, JD Coffey at a 52 with his minimal time. But then as it goes down, number 23 on the team would be Jahdae Barron at around 58. And then it gets a little bit worse here with our guy, Jaron Thompson, at 39.4. You can't be at 39.4 and play that safety role because your job is to come up and stop the run if it gets past the front 7. So
might be one of those jobs that we talked about that could be talking about right tackle. Christian Jones comes in, he doesn't produce. There's a whole lot of guys talking defensive backs that could take that job. Again, I wasn't sold that Keaton Crawford wasn't going to have that job to begin fall camp and hold it down through the first game. I felt like you'd have Watts, Jameson, and then Barron, and then Keaton Crawford and Anthony Cook would be the safeties. Everything you're reading says Jaron Thompson's got that job next to Anthony Cook, but again, if he doesn't produce, doesn't tackle, doesn't cover, again, you could definitely see Keaton Crawford taking that job 100% in my mind. I did want to give H credit because he did a $9.99 super chat up there, didn't say anything, but then he followed up with his thoughts on Cole Hudson being the center for the 2022 Texas Longhorns. I wouldn't mind that, getting DJ Campbell some more experience at guard. Then you come back with you'd have DJ Campbell as one guard. You would have Cole Hudson as the center. I don't know. Hayden Connor is the other guard, and then the tackles are Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams. That's an awfully young line.
I think that's a move through the season situation. I don't see that you're going to see that. You're 13 games out. I mean, you're 13 days out from your first game, but I think – go ahead, Jeremy. And
I misread it because I thought it said 23. I was building my 23 line when Hayden Connor's coming back as an upperclassman. DJ Campbell's there. Cole Hudson is still there, and then Campbell's matured, and then Banks is that juggernaut who's going to be probably your left tackle as long as he's in the program. So I initially read it as 23. To me, it's a whole lot of moving in season, but possibly if DJ Campbell comes in and shows that he's the second best guard on the team, then maybe you do some of that. But in my mind, I think that has to be done before conference. I want that first 5 to be solidified in their positions when you play that first conference game. So get that stuff figured out through ULM, Alabama, and UTEP. And when you line up to play that first conference game, I think with a lot of these close battles, like this, the strong safety position that we were talking about, again, these 3 games non-conference are gonna probably decide those jobs going into conference play. And again, attrition and injuries and all that stuff will also dictate that. But in a couple of these positions where we don't have a Bijan Robinson or an Xavier Worthy and the job is theirs, I think a lot of these non-conference games can be treated as NFL preseason games, and you can figure out those close races because now you have film, in-game film against Alabama to go back and judge and try to figure out who your best players are going into conference. So 250 people in here, though.
There are 250 people here, man. And
only 126 likes. Get this thing up to 200 likes. It's free, as Steven would say. I didn't even see his comment. I was just looking up and
he's
looking
our
down.
Hype man. Gamers Life's our hype man. Anytime we need some likes, anytime we need to get Nino on the show, he definitely generates those likes, man. And we appreciate you, Gamers Life. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I just want to bring up this comment here because I think
the snoring producer's right down here beside me.
He said you can't have that high of tackle rate in secondary means opposition is making catches. Yes, but in the snaps that they played, I'm going to give you the snaps, total snaps, 670 for Deshaun Jameson, 543 for Anthony Cook. They had 2 missed tackles apiece. 2 missed tackles apiece. So to me, it just tells me, yes, they they gave up a lot. Actually, Anthony Cook's coverage, percentage or coverage grade for, per Pro Football Focus is looking at a 70.4. And Deshaun Jameson is a little bit lower than that at 54.5. We all know that he needs to get a little bit better at that. If you've heard our secondary, if you haven't listened to our defensive backs preview that we put out yesterday, go listen to that. We get a little bit more in depth on the defensive backs, but 2 missed tackles, man. And if you go back and watch these games, they are sure tacklers. These guys can tackle, and you got to think about it. Anthony Cook had a little bit more play around the ball last year because he was playing that star position. So it wasn't all in coverage. It was actually around the football as well. But they're really good sure tacklers. I think from a tackling standpoint, we know that's been a concern over the last couple of years. I think Chris Ash kind of came in here and fixed it with his alligator tackling. And then he left and we regressed back to where we were before that. So tackling is a thing. But again, you're hoping that your defensive backfield doesn't have to make as much tackles because your front seven is making those tackles before they have an opportunity to get there. So
absolutely. And Steve said this the other day about somebody asked him about tackling. I think it was Joe Cook from Inside Texas asked him about tackling, and he said, it's hard. We don't want to bring guys down to the ground in fall camp. Again, we don't want to risk injury. But I will tell you, when the first contact is made with the receiver running back, there's a lot more white hats around the ball. And that's what you want to hear, is that they're in the position to finish. And again, I don't want that tackle rate to be I see it different. Because to me, a tackle rate means once they possess the ball, then you get them on the ground. What I want to see is that 70% reception rate against them go down to that 45-50% that gets you drafted in the NFL. That teams like Ohio State are consistently producing cornerbacks that hold receivers to a 40% completion rate. Alabama's, the Georgias, put hands on guys, lock them up, get help over the top when you need it, and don't let them catch the football. But receptions are going to be made. And then once the reception is made, then that 70% tackle rate is what you need to see. That gets you in the green on any coach's grading scale when you go back and review the film on Sundays or Mondays, whenever they do it.
No doubt, man. I was pulling up the coverage here, man. You're talking about, passing attempts versus allowed receptions. And we are actually looking at it the other day. And if you're looking at who we're looking at, Deshaun Jameson played 327 snaps in coverage last year. And he was thrown at 39 times and allowed 27 receptions, right at about that 69.2. And if you go back and look at, let's just bring up Anthony Cook here, 312 times in pass coverage. You're looking at 39, or where we at 40 times in coverage last year, only allowing 29 receptions. I'm saying only allowing 29 receptions out of those 40. You're looking at a 72.5 reception. So that's what you're talking about, is trying to get it down. Actually, the lowest one we had based on the cornerbacks was Darian Dunn, who had a 56% reception rate against him. 25 targets, 14 receptions. So
got to get pass rush. It starts up front. Got to get pass rush. Got to make the quarterback uncomfortable. Got to make him throw the ball off target. Mess up the timing with the receivers. It all put hands on the receivers off the line of scrimmage. All those things play a factor in, again, completion percentage against the defensive back. Because, again, Keandre Coburn said the other day that we did them a disservice last year. We did not get enough pressure on the quarterback. require them to cover for way too long when the receiver knows where they're going and they don't, and did them a disservice. And we're going to do better this year, getting interior pressure in the quarterback's face to help these guys out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It comes down to tackling, and it comes down to again, pass rush doesn't allow the quarterback to have a 3-step drop and get it out of their arms. If you got, man pressure, you can show man pressure and still bail. Use a bail technique.
Yeah, you can.
You get out. But I think if you're showing a fall, something that's may not even be true, and it still gets that in that quarterback's head that, hey, they're playing man pressure. I need, let me hold on to the ball a little bit longer. Boys, you hold the ball a little bit longer because they can't get into the route. Now all of a sudden you're allowing your pass rush to get there. So they kind of work hand in hand together, man. But I see the defense getting better this year. Again, they just have to be average to good to allow your team to win more games than they did last year.
Because that's what you want. You want a quarterback in the huddle saying, hey, I don't have enough time. Like plays getting called in from the sidelines or from up top, and he looks over the defense and it's like, I don't know how they want me to get this route combination off because I just don't have time to get to it, and second guessing themselves and pulling themselves out of plays and basically Omaha at the line of scrimmage because the defense has got them so confused or they just can't stop them. That's how Texas was dominant when you had like the front four that consistently got to the quarterback. And again, you had Aaron Ross, Michael Hove, the twins, the Griffin twins back there, just Terrell Brown, like you had during that national championship season, but you also had guys that could put pressure on the quarterback from up front. That again, it's coordination. They're called coordinators for a reason, to coordinate the front end from the back end, and that's how defense works. But it all starts up front for me. It's the most important position group on the team, and will be the focus point for me against ULM, along with that young offensive line, and of course our brand new redshirt freshman quarterback from Southlake.
Man, we made it all the way through our private chat comments, man. Every one of them. I was just looking at it. Just wanted to see something real quick before we got off of here. Kind of see where we're at before I.
You want to know
subscribers and likes and stuff?
So 3,889 subscribers. So 111 subscribers away from 4K before opening day. That's tremendous. That means the show probably got. I'm not good at math on the fly, but I think we were at 3,870 when we started. So during this show, 19 folks have subscribed. The show has gotten 149 likes so far. There's 260 folks watching. So if you don't have the ability to like it because you're on your phone or a device that doesn't allow you to like the video, please, when you get the earliest opportunity, you get on a device that will allow you to like the video, please do that. Again, you guys are going to help us make our goal. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to hit 4,000. It's just when are we going to hit it because of support from folks like you. Again, please hit that like button. Please tell folks about Texas Football Talk. Please, in the last show, we haven't talked about it here. We did get 6 new members to the Inner Circle. Again, that's our membership program, $4.99 a month. Gives you cool little emojis to throw up, cool little badges beside your name, but it also gets you in-game chats, sneak previews. Again, the Inner Circle members got access to our defensive back preview yesterday, 2 hours early before we released it to all of YouTube. So they do get sneak peeks on our video content that we do produce. And then, like I say, live in-game chats for all the games that don't include microphone and camera. But, of course, we're going to turn on the mics, turn on the cameras for Alabama and Oklahoma. That's membership only, $4.99 per month. And then shows coming up. Like you said, we talked to Mike Roach this morning. He's in the midst of a move, packing. Once he gets settled at his new place, we're going to hit him back up to talk about Freshman's impact on the 22 season. And then, of course, we're in communication with Roderick Babers, who, if you guys have seen Twitter, was on fire on his Friday show from 3 to 7 on the Horn. Ball don't lie. Hoping to get him back on really, really soon to talk the 2022 season for the Texas Longhorns. But thank you guys so much. I'll let you do the official outro. I just want to thank the audience.
No, it's good, man. Gamers Life said 48 more likes for a producer appearance next show. So, hey, I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah, 48 likes.
They want the snoring producer, a.k.a. Sam.
I think they want to see the real producer. So,
okay.
So
she'll have to do her hair and makeup and get all dressed
and all that
up.
stuff. So, If we can get this Joker 44 more likes on here, we'll bring the producer on here. Like what's producer Jesse there for Josh Pay?
Yeah, for
that nobody
Josh
ever
Pay.
seen like one time. We'll bring the producer on here. If we get 43 more likes before we end this show here in about 30 seconds. So I don't know if that's going to happen unless people hit that like button really fast. So, hey, we appreciate you listening to us on this Sunday afternoon. Not sure when we'll be actually doing a show next, maybe Tuesday. I actually start class tomorrow back in fall. I'm in college. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But we appreciate y'all listening as always. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. You can find us on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and on Twitter at TX Football Talk. Thank you for listening, and as always, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.